When it's not always raining, there'll be days like this. When there's no one complaining, there'll be days like this. Everything falls into place like the flick of a switch. Well, my mama told me there'll be days like this.
3:07 on the Central Coast. It is Monday, October 30th, 2023. I'm Dave Congleton, welcoming you to another edition, another week of Hometown Radio. Thanks for hanging out with us. I guess the big local story of the day thus far is that apparently County Supervisor Bruce Gibson was served with recall papers. Buckle up. Here we go again. I have no idea what it means, but we'll talk about it on Wednesday. Why are they trying to recall Bruce Gibson? We'll talk later in the week. On this broadcast, we're here all the way till 7 o'clock. It is a Dave Congleton show, always your hometown radio talk show. First up, let us wade back into the situation in Grover Beach. Holy cow, what a mess. Fortunately, we have in studio former Grover Beach Mayor, author, local government watchdog Debbie Peterson back with us. Debbie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dave.
Nice to see you. Introduce John for us, please.
John Clemons was the former superintendent of the South San Luis Obispo County Sanitation District, and he is the one who the board brought in to turn the district around when it was really struggling financially, and he took it from way in the red to in the black in a matter of about 6 weeks.
All right, we'll hear from John. John, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Dave.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll come back and include you in the conversation. And a special good afternoon to our friends in Grover Beach City Hall, who I'm told are listening anxiously to this broadcast. We give equal time. I'm more than happy to provide a platform to city officials if they want to give a different point of view. Meanwhile, Debbie, let's start with you. We got a couple different issues going on, but I guess at the basis of all this is the fact that water rates in Grover Beach are doing what?
They will, by 2028, they will double, but they will go up significantly year on year, about almost 20% a year, starting in January 2024. So in a couple of months, we're going to see them go up.
And what's the reasoning behind this? Why are they doubling the rates?
The primary reason is to finance a $100 million project called Central Coast Blue, which will drill many wells and install pipelines to re-inject cleaned up sewer water into our aquifer.
And I want to hear a lot more about that, and I want to hear from John on that. But sticking on the water issue, what happened with the vote, the 218 vote?
The 218 vote, originally the city sent a letter out on September 27th telling folks that they were going to increase the water rates. They could protest by sending in a letter. If they don't send in a letter, they're counted as a yes. And then they made a mistake because they didn't send the letter to everybody. So last Monday, a week ago, the city council met and agreed that they would send out another letter, and this time they would send it to everyone and they would reset the clock. So now everyone has until December 11th to send in a letter saying they don't like it. And if 50% of the water customers plus one more vote in saying, write in saying, no, we don't want this, then the city council will not be able to raise the water rate. So the problem that occurred for us was that the staff report originally on Monday night said that the original vote sent in because of the first letter won't count. And then we got Andrea Seastrand, former representative, went in and was told they won't count. However, the city council had directed that they will count. And so I sent a letter to the city attorney, who very graciously responded and said, oh, no, they're going to count. But then on Friday, a letter came out in the last paragraph, and this was the second letter from the city correcting their failure to mail to everybody the first time. The last paragraph said, your votes won't count. The votes sent in before the 23rd will not count.
And I have a nice email from Matthew Bronson, who is?
He is the city manager.
And I appreciate Matthew reaching out, and we hope to have a conversation with him some point soon. And he shared with me a post from social media, and I quote, under city council direction, all eligible protests sent to the city regarding the proposed rate structure, regardless of whether they were sent in response to the initial or second notice for the public hearing on December 11th, will be counted. Please note that under Proposition 218 requirements, only one protest per property may be counted. React.
I'm thrilled that he did that because there were over 6,000 posts, maybe even 7,000 on the Nextdoor app over the weekend from people asking, will they count, won't they count, will they, won't they? And it's caused a great deal of anger and confusion. So it's a very good thing that he has clarified that.
John, you've got the background in water policy. What's your reaction to just the voting part of this and how this has gone so far?
I don't think the numbers have been presented accurately. In other words, when you measure a project like a wastewater supply, a recycled water supply project, the measure of how good the project is cost benefit called like acre feet per cost per acre foot. And so when you look at what Grover Beach is set to pay, the cost per acre foot is somewhere around, in my calculation, somewhere around $16,000 per acre foot. And to keep that in perspective, the money that what they pay for Lopez water is only about $1,700 per acre foot.
Yeah,
so
talk about
and almost $17,000 for this project because nobody's vetted the true cost of the project. And the project is $26 million, and you're going to take a loan out for that. So you're going to have to pay back the principal. The principal over a 30-year loan is $866,000 a year, and then the debt service for it is $1.3 million a year. So you have 2.1, and then they claim the O&M cost will be 1.2. I think it'll be a lot higher than that, and so you end up with somewhere around 3.3 million. But you're only getting 200 acre feet of water per year out of the project. The project has presented.
Right. Right. I'm just trying to get a comment on the vote part of it, but he's spelling out all the numbers on pricing.
And unfortunately, I didn't hear that comment on the vote part. So I can't come back on that. I can clarify a couple of the terms that John used. The O&M is operation and maintenance, and 200 acre feet is about what, I believe, John, it's about what 4 households would use of water over a year. Is that right? No, 400 households would use over the course of a year.
Usually about 2 households annually.
We're starting off the show talking about Grover Beach and their water situation and the overall debate about the so-called Central Coast Blue Project. Debbie Peterson, former Grover Beach mayor, joins me in studio. John Clemons, former superintendent of the South San Luis Obispo Sanitation District, is also joining us. So, Debbie, bring us up to date. Where are we on the vote now? Meaning, how do people vote? How do people participate in this in Grover Beach?
If you want the Central Coast Blue Project to go ahead, if you feel that it's all great and you're not concerned about your costs doubling, then you do nothing. Because if you do nothing, it's a yes vote. However, if you are not happy and you feel it needs a little more vetting, then you need to write into the city and say, no, I don't approve of the rate increase. And you need to do it in a certain format. You need to be the person named on your water bill. You need to put your name, your address, and sign it, a wet signature, no photocopies, and keep a copy of it.
Is there a website we can give out for people to get the information you just shared?
I have a website that's called itflowsdownhill.com. Itflowsdownhill.com, and you can download a template for the letter there.
All right. So I know you've been on the show before talking about the project. Remind folks about Central Coast Blue, what exactly it is.
It's really a very exciting project. It's been very well marketed. However, it has changed a great deal. Back in June, we found out that it will move from the railroad tracks and public sites into the residential streets of Grover Beach, some of which have already been repaired, many of which will have a lot of truck traffic on them and have been repaired, which means that Grover citizens pay twice. They've increased their property tax bills 9.5% every year to fix those streets. Now they get to pay again when they get torn up to put in to trench pipelines and sink wells. And that's the whole project is 20 wells, and we're not quite sure how many miles of pipeline. The EIR says it's 5.7. So that we found out in June. We found out in June that instead of being 25 million, it'll be 99 million. And then about a month ago in September, we found out that our water bills would double. So there've been some huge changes, and many of us are saying, let's go back and look at this again.
So the water bills are being doubled to pay for Central Coast Blue.
Yes. That's right.
So let me bring John back into the conversation. John, I want to revisit the issue of cost because you were arguing earlier that the cost is higher than what is being suggested.
just for the first phase of the project. In the first phase, the wastewater from the Sand District, which is the water that Grover Beach would discharge, is not being used. It's only Pismo. But anyway, the cost so again, these projects are measured by cost per acre foot. Right. The value of it. For instance, the city of Grover Beach currently pays about $1,700 per acre foot to get water from Lopez. As I ran up cost for Central Coast Blue, it looks more like $16,000 per acre foot.
Oh my gosh!
And that's using the numbers from their own documentation. Generally, it's your annualized cost divided by the yield, and so the yield would only be around 100 acre foot. For their portion of the yield would be somewhere around 200 acre foot to 39% or 36%, and then the cost would be somewhere up around $4 million, because it would be the loan would be $26 million, paying back principal would be $800,000 a year, and then the debt service would be $1.3 million, and then the O&M, or the annual operation of the plant, including staffing and maintenance, would be another $1.2 million. So you're up around $4 million annually to only get 200 acre feet of water. And so that would be infeasible, is I think is the term that you'd like to use. There are alternatives. They could actually use and this is another thing, it's supposed to be a regional project. They could use the water from the sanitation district, which is 2.5 million gallons a day, as opposed to the 1 million gallons a day they're going to use from Pismo. So you have a resource that's more than two times as much that's available to you, but you choose the smaller resource, which drives up the cost of the project.
Comment on the numbers that he's throwing out here, Debbie. You're writing pretty fast.
Yeah, John and I talked about this yesterday, and I did take a look at his figures, and I know that he is basing it on previous figures, and that he, in fact, was an author of one of the reports that's been used for Central Coast Blue. And so I was on the board of the South Sand District at the time when they were initially doing the studies that are now being used as resources. So I think his numbers are right, and he's saying $16,000 an acre foot is 10 times what we're paying right now for Lopez water. It's more than 10 times what we would pay if we had state water. I guess from what Don's telling me, the average across the state for new projects is about $2,500 per acre foot. So we're way, 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 way over that. And that's why it's doubling our water bills.
Is she understanding you correctly, John? Is that the point you're trying to make?
Yes. And I would invite anybody to substitute numbers with me. I mean, it's these numbers are straight out of their own reports. It's insane. What the Central Coast Blue people haven't done is they haven't presented it to the cities. They just say, well, the project is $93 million now. And the real valuation, again, of a project of water, of any water supply, is cost per acre foot, how much you're paying for a certain volume of water. I mean, because you could always have $100 million, $1,000 million project, and if you don't know the acre foot, you don't know the cost per volume, then it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And so they haven't presented that. I'd like to see Central Coast Blue do a calculation and present.
Why haven't they?
I don't know. I can't speak for them. I can't speak for Central Coast Blue. I'm not totally opposed to the project, but it needs to be implemented in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense for the people of Grover Beach to have to pay that much. And the real tragedy is they'll be stuck in that cost for the next 30 years.
So, Debbie, where are we on this project?
Well, apparently the city is going to have a workshop on it on November 8th, so people can go along and learn more about it. If Grover Beach does not approve, or if the people of Grover Beach say, no, wait a minute, hold on, we need to take a closer look at this by writing that letter in, if 50% plus one of the people who buy water in Grover Beach do that, then the project cannot go forward as it's currently planned. That's where it would stand.
And who's backing this? Who is Central Coast Blue?
It is Pismo Beach. It's been driven by them all along. They are they're the ones who started the project. They've now set up another government agency with a board and all those attendant costs.
I'm looking over at Craig, that EMS, for a second, because I want to make sure that people are able to hear John Clemons and Debbie Peterson as they talk about Central Coast Blue and water rates possibly doubling in Grover Beach. and the campaign to give people a chance to have their voices heard. We have Debbie Peterson, former Grover Beach mayor, local government watchdog and author with us. We also have John Clemons, former superintendent of the South San Luis Sanitation District. Debbie, what's happening tomorrow at 9 a.m.?
I didn't organize this. There have been a whole lot of people taking the initiative on this. It was organized by another young man, and there will be people meeting who are interested in this issue, who want to get the word out at 9 o'clock at Red Bee Coffee. In Grover Beach. On the Stolberg-Tatum line, Nadine checks in. Hey, Nadine, I'm a property owner in Grover Beach. Debbie, being a realtor, knows this could become a huge problem, like the mobile homes on the Mesa that are being sold or are sold at a very low price because of the gigantic rent increases recently. Absolutely. Those I haven't seen those rents recently, but they used to be running at $1,500 a month. And this will be the same thing. It will affect property prices. Landlords will have to put their rents up, and they can only legally increase them to a maximum of 10% a year. And that gets passed on to tenants who can't afford to pay it. And so we have a lot of former mayors and former council members and landlords, and I hope renters too, who are really worried about this.
Are they worried about it, or are they opposed to it? There's a difference.
Well, they're both worried about it and opposed about it. They would really like to see a look at some of the alternatives that haven't been revisited for a very long time, and certainly not since the price is quadrupled for the project.
All right. Who's Jeff English?
Jeff English is the manager for Central Coast Blue.
All right. Let's welcome Jeff English to the show. Jeff, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dave.
Hi, Jeff.
Jeff, pleasure to speak with you, and thanks for the opportunity to call in.
Sure. What's up?
I'm the general manager for Central Coast Blue Regional Recycled Water Authority. It's the joint powers authority that was created by Grover Beach, Arroyo Grande, and Pismo Beach to pay for and construct Central Coast Blue.
Okay.
And I wanted to make a couple comments. One is that I appreciate that Debbie Peterson is excited about the project, as am I. It is an exciting project. It's a project that's not only a helpful project, but it's very much needed. I don't know if everybody recalls, but we were 9 months away. 9 months ago, we were concerned that Lake Lopez was going to go dry. 2012, we had a similar situation. This is a project that will provide some stability for our water supply. And the South County has a relatively insecure water supply. Our groundwater is over pumped, and the cities, the agencies in that area have had to voluntarily cut back on their pumping to prevent seawater intrusion, and have been doing that for years. It was back in 2009.
So, Jeff, let me jump in, though, and kind of cut to the chase here. I think everybody I've been hearing from on this project seems to think it has potential. The concern seems to be about the cost. So I've got Debbie and I've got John here saying you're underestimating your cost.
Well, thank you. And we look forward to presenting information about the project on November 8th. It'll be at the Grover Beach City Council chambers at 6 o'clock p.m. Dave, this project has been studied for over a decade, and there have been many opportunities for the public to weigh in on this project and to participate in public discussions at city council meetings. Each one of the city councils had multiple meetings about the project. So it's been studied and been discussed in public forums dozens of times.
Yeah, but Jeff, who's right? Are you right, or is Debbie right?
Well, actually, I wish that they were using valid information and up-to-date information. The information that John is referring to is from a report in 2015 and a report in 2016. One was done by the city of Pismo Beach and another by the sanitation district in cooperation with the city of Arroyo Grande. And both of those projects were planning studies, and they used estimates back 5-6 years ago, more than that, now almost 10 years ago, on what were estimated costs at the time. We've had a significant increase in cost of living, particularly around capital projects, public projects, and there has been a cost increase, no doubt about it, from original. The yield that John is referring to, not sure where he's getting those numbers. Maybe some of the numbers are from that study, and I do have a collegial relationship from John. I worked with him back when he was at Sanitation District.
So let's hear from John. Let's give John a chance to respond. John, how do you respond to Jeff? Jeff, hang on, please. Jeff, hang on, please. Thank you. John, how do you respond to Jeff?
Hello, Jeff. Well, actually, I was using the information from the current rate study for Grover Beach. When I say 200 acre foot a year, that's their portion. And basically, it's because if you use 900 acre feet a year as a number coming, then of course you lose 75% of that throughout the process through the recycled water treatment process, the advanced treatment process. And then also, according to your own documents, you lose 75% of 900, and then of that number that's left, when you inject it into the ground, 27% of that is unrecoverable. That leads you down to a number of about 60% at best, which is somewhere around 500 to 600 acre feet. Now, when you divide that into City of Grover Beach's portion, that leads at about 231 acres. For a number.
All right, so we got John's math. All right, hang on, John. Jeff, go ahead and respond.
Sure. Yeah, Dave. And I don't want to just sit here and rebut all the things he has to say. I'd be happy to do that. I wish that John would come to me in person in advance. The project's actually taking 1,100 acre foot of Pismo Beach recycled water, and we'll be treating it. The hydraulic engineers who design and do these projects, which is not a new technology, is done up and down the state, are projecting 85% yield, and we will be pumping that into the ground. We will not be removing the exact same water that's pumped in to the ground, but it will create a barrier where we can increase our pumping rates inland to the same exact ratio pumped in. So it will be an exact yield from that 1,100 foot of water that will be treated.
All right, let me jump in here because, Jeff, I appreciate your calling, and I'm more than happy to give you and Matt equal time, but I want to give my guests a chance to be heard. So I will thank you for your comment. Debbie, do you want to say anything in response to what we just heard from Mr. English?
Yes, I wanted to go back to what John said, and he was saying we would lose 75%. I think he meant 25%. We would retain 75%. So I wanted to clarify those numbers. We have time. Okay, I understand that and have been concerned about it since I was the mayor and on the council. We have issues with water, and it's a good thing to bring more water into the county, into the city. But this first half of the project is not putting more water in. It is taking more out than it's putting back in. And there is a phase 2, but they're not telling us what that will cost. It's not until we start using the water from our own sanitation district, Arroyo Grande, Oceano, Grover Beach, that we actually do anything for saltwater intrusion.
All right, we got Bill and Grover on KVEC. Hi, Bill.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, I have a couple of questions. I've seen a lot of the comments on social media. Have there been other cities in California that have had a success story, like Arcadia? There's many small towns, Goleta. And if you inject the water into the ground, won't the salt water just flow around that well? And when is the learning presentation? You said early November. Thank you very much.
All right, Bill, thanks for the call. Who can help them with those?
Well, there are no guarantees that if you inject water in the ground that it's going to go where you want it to go, that it will stop saltwater intrusion. And the meeting is November 8th at 6:00 at City Hall. The final meeting where is the last possible chance to get that letter in is going to be December 11th.
John, anything you want to say to Bill?
Yeah, well, according to studies, done, there's actually no real threat of seawater intrusion except near one of the wells in Pismo Beach. According to the study, if you would have to increase pumping by 150% of the current pumping rates for there to become a problem or a threat of seawater intrusion. So when we see seawater intrusion, right now that's not even a current threat. Those are scenarios that they built to justify this project.
Yeah. All right. John Clemons, we so appreciate you joining us today. Thank you very much for your time. We'll come back for a short final segment with Debbie Peterson. I'm Dave Congleton. This is Hometown Radio. All right, we're at our final segment with the former Grover Beach Mayor, Debbie Peterson. Debbie, what's the best website for your work?
itflowsdownhill.com.
You can find more information about Debbie, her books, and the issues that she addresses at that website. So, you're concerned about the economic impact on businesses in Grover Beach with all this.
Yes. The businesses in Grover Beach are already stumping up, like every other citizen in Grover, 9.5% in addition to the regular property taxes to fix our residential streets. That does nothing for them. And they're paying much higher water rates than the residential. So they have been hugely supportive of the people of Grover Beach. We owe a huge debt to them. And I don't believe that doubling their water bills is a helpful response. Many of them actually live in Grover Beach. They certainly employ Grover Beach people. And it's going to also impact landlords because they can only increase rents 10% legally. And of course, their tenants to whom it gets passed on to. So it's not just people on fixed incomes or people who are living month to month, which add those all together, it's most of us. It's going to impact a lot of people.
If you want in on this conversation, Debbie Peterson, we need to hear from you now, please. 805-543-8830. Toll free 800-549-5832. You can also text it on the Stolberg-Tatum line. What's the call to action?
Send in your letter no later be received by the city, absolutely not 1 second later than December 11th, if you don't want your water bills to double. If you would like to allow some time for this to be looked at again now that we have new information that we didn't have 4 months ago.
Well, you were saying earlier that you thought that most of the current Grover Beach City Council was in support of this idea.
Clint Wyrick is the only one who's voiced any concern about it.
Are there any other cities in California coastline that have implemented and used this design and technology and been successful? I mean, that's the key thing right there. If we're like the experiment, that's a whole nother story.
All right, let's talk about that. Thank you, Bill.
Bill, I'm not aware of any. I know there have been a lot of different kinds of projects. I think John was trying to answer, and we had some issues with being able to hear and understand him. I'm not aware of any. I know Los Osos started punching holes in their marshy aquifer, which is very similar to ours in Oceano, and they actually created saltwater intrusion. So now they have to desalinate. So in saying that we're going to desalinate for $99 million, we may end up having to, say we're going to stop saltwater intrusion. We may actually cause it and then spend another $99 million fixing it.
We go to Allison and Grover. Hey, Allison.
Hi, John and Debbie.
Hi.
I've heard that Ventura bought a whole bunch of water and pumped it into their aquifer to store it for residential use later, and that water disappeared.
That's the horror story. You hear those stories. Yeah. They have a really, really, really interesting, toilet to tap program. And they have huge marshy area where they pump water into it and it gets all cleaned up. And it's actually really exciting. And I've tasted the water. But it's not quite the same as ours. But yeah, there are those stories. And then there are stories across the country where, an aquifer is successful, as I understand. So, but I would say the jury is out on this one.
Okay. And just my final point, I'm interested in hearing the alternatives. Can this water be pumped into some of our other storage tanks or to Lopez?
It's not clean enough. The only place we can use it is to irrigate or pump it back in the ground.
Okay.
But there are other alternatives that are a lot cheaper that would provide us with more water at much less cost.
Such as?
We could use our current sanitation district. They didn't do it in 2017 because they hadn't done the necessary work on it yet to bring it up to date. But that's all done now. So now it would be much, much cheaper to just use the plant we have. We could work with the county on their desal plans for the future. We could work harder, and I think most of us would rather work harder at conserving than doubling our water bills. We could conserve.
Alice, anything else you want to say?
No, thank you. That's it.
All right. Appreciate the call. Thank you. This is off topic, but on the Stolberg-Tatum line, one of our listeners in San Luis is encouraging you never to put in bike lanes in Grover Beach.
Oh, please do. It's so dangerous to ride bikes there. We have really wide streets.
Well, we've got Ken on KVEC. Hi, Ken.
Hello.
Hi. Can you turn your radio down, please? Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, you're on the air.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my concern is the prices. The prices, I notice, if you look at the scale of every city, in 226, I believe, we will be paying $3.50 more a unit after 20 units of use. Pismo in 228 will be paying $3.50 more. So I'm worried about why are we paying so much more for a unit of water usage when the other cities are not, and all the work's going to be done in our city.
Debbie?
Every city has their own reserves. They have their own costs. They have their own systems. And so that's always a really hard one to address. I think that the elephant in the room is that at $25 million, the project was anticipating about $3,500 an acre foot. Now at $99 million, it looks like it's going to do the simple math times 4, going to be nearer $16,000 an acre foot, which is about 10 times what we're paying now for our existing water sources. And it's untenable.
Ken?
Yeah, but why are we paying so much more for Grover Beach? We're smaller, we use less, they use more water than us, and we're going to be paying. I looked at AG. AGs, they only go up to 226 their rates, and we will be at $4 more, and for the same amount for tier 2, and then we will be $3.50 more for tier 2. And by the way, Pismo gets up to 33 units at the same tier of usage. We'll be paying $3.50 more.
Those are questions for the council in the city. And
but do you understand? Do you have any sense as to why it's so much different?
No, I don't.
Yeah, what's so different?
I really don't know the answer to that. I don't know what's in their minds.
No one believes me. Just go look at the numbers on the city sites. Every city site, it will show you the numbers, and that's where it comes up to. In my opinion, what I see, I don't understand why we are paying more for the cost.
I think you've got your numbers right, and I think you've got good questions, and I don't know. I don't know why.
We don't know the answers, Ken, but we appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Thank you very much. Again, the website for more information, Debbie, is?
itflowsdownhill.com.
What happens if the voters of Grover Beach reject this? What happens to Central Coast Blue? What happens to water in the South County?
Well, Central Coast Blue will have to rethink the project, and our council would be told to sharpen their pencils and go back and figure out a way to bring us some water that maybe really does put water back in the aquifer, because this one does not. We take more out than we put back in.
Meeting tomorrow?
9:00 a.m. at Red Bee Coffee on 3rd and Grand in Grover Beach.
You expect also people should be emailing their city council members in Grover.
Oh, talk to your city council members, because you can send in your letter and that's primary, but talk to your city council members. Let them know how you feel.
All right, Debbie Peterson, we always thank you for your time and your perspective. I got 45 seconds for a final thought.
If you don't want your water prices to double, if you'd like them to go back and see if we can find a more cost-effective way to do this, if you care about the people in your community, if you love your city and your city council, send in that letter, vote no to this increase so we can take another look at it.
Craig, what is the caller suggesting?
Yeah, the rate difference is because some of those cities have state water.
Yes, we all buy water at different rates in different proportions.
That would explain it. We thank the caller for that. All right, Debbie Peterson, thank you.